Today, our verse is Luke chapter 15, verse 15. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. The story of the prodigal son, as it is popularly known, is probably the most famous of Jesus' parables. The young man had asked his father for his share of what belonged to him. He went into another country and squandered his money on reckless living. Then a famine hit that country and he began to be in need. We notice that because the young man did not work for his money, he squandered it. He never thought of investing or saving for the rainy day. Think about so many people today who live in affluence and how their children spend money, sometimes recklessly. Our verse focuses on the young man's action in that distant country. When the famine came and he had no more money, he searched for a job. He was torn between life and death, survival and extinction. The man who never worked for his food, who had everything at his beck and call, servants all around him serving him, hired himself out to work. One wonders if he would be able to actually work, looking at his background. The Greek word mistheos, hired servant or paid worker, has the same root as mistos, reward. He hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs, to get rewarded for his services. In his father's house, he was rewarded even when he did not work. Sending him to feed pigs tells us two things. First, he is outside the Israelite territory. It was against the law to rear or have anything to do with pigs because it was considered an unclean animal. So he was outside the Israelite land. Going to a distant country is symbolic of exile. The young man wanted independence from his father, that is God, to freely choose whatever lifestyle he wanted. What is unique in this story is that the young man deliberately chose exile. He chose to live away from his father. He was not forced into it. He left his own country, his own house, where there was plenty, and moved outside the land of his father, the promised land. While the people of Israel moved from Egypt to the promised land, the young man moved from the promised land to Egypt, a symbolic place of suffering and forced labor. It also reminds us of the Babylonian exile. Sin is a deliberate choice to abandon the love of God to do our own will. The second point is that the young man moves from grace to grass, from righteousness to uncleanness. How often do we deliberately choose to turn away from God? Whenever we sin, we exile ourselves from God. Sin removes us from grace to grass, from holiness to uncleanness. The story of this young man during Lent reminds us to stay at home with the Lord. Eat from the table of the Lord. Eat from the table the Lord has prepared for us, and seek to do the Father's will rather than our own will, the will of independence from God. Lord, teach us to be content with what we have and live responsible lives. Amen. God bless you. I wish you a lovely day.